First of all, I say I don't think this was specifically the losing of the game, but I think it was clearly the wrong decision. Like there's just no disputing that fact, and it's easy for Leo Cullen to say, "Oh, that's easy with hindsight." Of course it is, because it was even more clearly the wrong thing because your best player, the best player in that position, maybe in the world, and someone who would start for any other side wasn't in the team. As far as I understand, and as far as they've explained, there was no restriction. It was a decision to put him on the bench, and it just doesn't make sense. Again, I think there's an element of overthinking things here. You have the best inside centre in your squad on the bench. Just put him at inside centre. And I'm not like Robbie Henshaw is an excellent player, amazing record at the top level, but his form isn't as good as Jordie Barrett's, and I don't think he's as good as Jordie Barrett. And that's simple terms, you know. Just don't overthink that selection. Don't be overthinking that Saints finished strong last time. I mean, Jordie Barrett will finish strong, you know, he'll play 80 minutes at the very, very top level in a World Cup final. He was brilliant in the World Cup. So that was just a wrong decision, and I don't think they can dispute that. I mean, I saw Ian Abbott trying to explain today, and he's talking about Jimmy O'Brien and others, and there's not that big a gap. But again, it just doesn't really wash. And in fact, I think a lot of the selection calls that they had to make didn't work out. Cian Healy, I don't think actually should have been in the matchday 23. Jack Boyle to me had earned that position, and I don't know if there was an element of sentimentality in that even. And then starting the game, and he's involved in that kick chase try that they concede. And Porter just kind of struggled to get to his usual level, I thought, then when he came into the game late. Max Deegan started in the back row, obviously, which was a big call with Jack Conan on the bench, and just didn't manage to impact the game in a way that we've seen Conan do at the very highest level. Tommy O'Brien worked out great, but I mean, they couldn't not pick him at that stage, I think. Even if Osborne and Jimmy O'Brien miss out on the match day 23. So, yeah, it didn't work out in terms of the selection. And the Barrett one, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. They'll massively, massively regret that as coaches, I think. Because while I genuinely don't think it was the winning or losing of the game, if he's on the pitch, Leinster probably would have been better. And he, as you saw when he came on, he makes big plays, and he's just so proven at that level. So, yeah, it was a bad call.
Is there a rule to your knowledge, Berch, that would
No, I don't. I think there is for Snyman, but not for Barrett. But I'm not 100% sure. I think even if there is a rule, you ring up the RFU and say, "Sorry about this, but we're under pressure here. We haven't won one in 6 years. We're doing what's best for us." And
if there was a rule here in this case, they would have at least strongly intimated it, lads. They've
yeah.
said
So I think it's a decision based on emotion and like the lads you're going to have next year, and not wanting to let them down. I would guess there's no way logically it makes it's a form decision, because and then fairness to them, they picked Max and Tommy O'Brien on form. Right now, Healy they didn't pick on form. I think there's an emotional side to that. Your last European game, trying obviously to paint a picture to Bruce, and ironically they give away a free kick the first scrum on the left hand side for jumping the gun, and so it doesn't work out. So I think it is the win and losing the game, the selection. To be honest, I also think I think it is. Jordie Barrett starts, you lose by 3. Is he worth 3 points? I think you find a way somewhere along the line. He has a big moment in one of the lead up to one of those tries, or he problem solves somewhere. I think they win the game with Jordie Barrett starting. I genuinely do. I agree about Cian Healy. I think Jack Boyle was ahead of him. You can't be bringing emotion into selection here. You got to be absolutely ruthless, and players sense that. Players, like, you're trying to tell them this is a big game. Like, I know Leo afterwards said, "Oh, they were brilliant against Cast and Claremont." Northampton haven't been brilliant. They genuinely haven't. You're playing Toulouse or Bordeaux in a final. It's very easy be genuine and show threats. The players aren't stupid. The players watch what's happening. They also know where Northampton have been. If any of them scouted back 3 games, they see Northampton get spanked by Leicester. Northampton weren't in brilliant form, and then you see the selection, and players themselves wonder, like, what's that about? What's that about? And also at halftime, like Max had a quiet first half. You've got Jack Conan there. Whatever you're saying at halftime that you want to change, I actually think you say, right, Jack, you're on. I actually feel I'm playing there. I feel, wow, deadly. You know what I mean? And we know Jordie's going to come on in 5 minutes. We're going after these lads now. Whereas giving Max another 3 minutes, I think you lose the impact of, unless you want to get the crowd involved. I don't know, but I personally would be in favour of, if you've made the decision, and I think the decision probably was made, or certainly should be made, that you want to get him on the field. You just make it a half time. And again, I wonder, like, what does halftime look like for Leinster? What does selection look like? What does the message down through Kieran Frawley look like? I also think we have to talk about Frawley at 10, right? So Sam obviously had a very poor game. But like, you'd have to say that Ross, they haven't prepared a 10 to be back up to Sam, they haven't got that right, that they're confident, they're in form, and they're ready to go on, and actually that they have confidence in them as well, right? So, like, think back to last year, Ross was injured for about 3 or 4 minutes before they took him off in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, if you remember, because Frawley hadn't actually had any real genuine development as a backup 10, I felt, right? And Frawley came on, he took 2 drop goals and missed them. But like, I would have said, if I was analysing last year's season and I was being really critical, I would have said, geez, we left ourselves a situation where we were very reliant on Ross, right? And we didn't have someone ready to come on as a closer or a different way of playing, who believed that we knew he was a brilliant 10. And 12 months later, we're in the same situation, that Sam is obviously not playing well. And yet Ross, obviously, last week against Scarlets wasn't great. Ross is leaving. Frawley's been completely broken in terms of his confidence. So I can understand how he ended up with that. But I don't know if you saw, Jordie Barrett came out at halftime, took a shot at goal from a long way out. Just put the ball down, banged it over the post, and was done. I'm not saying he should have come on at 10, but my thing is, I think if when Leinster review this, they'll have to say, how do we end up with all the talent we have and all the money, that basically we're bringing Ross on, and he's basically disenfranchised at the moment. He's not staying. Like, could we brought him on? Could we brought him on in the 60th minute and actually give him a genuine chance to close it out? That's like, they're the things I would be saying now. And it's easy. Like, what did Jacques said? Hindsight is an exact science. It absolutely is, right? But I certainly wasn't looking down the bench going, Ross Byrne is ready to come on here, even though obviously in the past he is that kind of player, and he kicked that penalty against Ulster back in the day and all that stuff. But I just think the way they've managed him this season, and Frawley, we were effectively, all our eggs were in one basket on Sam. Is that fair?
Frawley's had what, 6, 7? I don't know off the top of my head. 6, 7 starts to 10. I wouldn't say it's, and he probably would admit it hasn't been the best season for him, and his form hadn't been fantastic. And Ross Byrne is, I think, a great value as a player. I agree that maybe they could have done it earlier, though. Yeah, they could have done it earlier. I suppose just around the selection again, it's, to me, it's part of the theme again. It's kind of overthinking this, really. Like, it doesn't seem all that complex now, and it's the whole light of day. But even before the game, I think a lot of people would have made the points that we've made here around selection. Like, is there another head coach in World Rugby who wouldn't have picked Jordie Barrett in his starting team? I'm not sure there is, and I think there is that element of sentimentality around it, Berch, and just overthinking it. Like, you've paid this money for this unbelievable player, just start him in the game, and yeah, it did make sense. And then at halftime, I agree, Conan and Barrett, just get him on the pitch. You're 27-15 down. You're in a big hole. A 12-point margin is a big, big hole in a knockout semi-final with a place in the final on the line. Adjust quickly and get him on the pitch. There's a shot of Jordie Barrett on the bench. I think Leinster have actually just scored Doris's try maybe, and he kind of looks a bit bemused, to be honest. He's still sitting on the bench. Now he comes on pretty soon after that, but just get him in the game as early as possible. So yeah, and this isn't, there have been other selections that I know people have taken issue with over the last few years, and I think that it does come into it when the pressure comes on with all their options, and I'm sure it is difficult. I'm sure other coaches would love those headaches, but they probably haven't always covered themselves in glory, and certainly not in this game. And it has to be judged with an element of hindsight. Like, the result, it has to be. It didn't work out the way they would have hoped, and I don't think that, it's not so obvious like they were the right decisions before the game. They were up in the air, and it didn't work out, and and they'll have to live with that, I guess. And next time around, like, don't overthink it. You know, if you're signing Eoin to come in, surely he's in the starting team next time around. All the big NIQ players over the years who've come in and made a big impact, they've been starters. You know, they've been starting in the team, really influential figures, and that's probably what Barrett should have been here.